you so much. No. All right, welcome everyone. This is our second version or second time going through social media basics today here at Campfire Co-works. Thank you everyone for joining us in person. This is great. And thank you everyone for joining us online. If you're watching the replay, be sure to check down in the link below in the description. You'll find our socials, you'll find our Discord. Join our Discord, and for everyone here, if you have questions, that's the best place to kind of connect with us. The Notion template Jazz just showed you does have that link in there as well, and that way, you know, going forward, if you're like, here, I created this thing, can you just kind of check it over for me and make sure that, you know, it's looking good. Sometimes it's nice to just get a second pair of eyes on something before you send it out into the into the virtual universe. That's a great place to do that. So hop in the Discord and we'd love to help you out there. And again, today Jazz is going to be covering the social media basics. We will continue the next 3 weeks. We'll be doing this Wednesday and Friday at 9 a.m. From now on, we're probably only going to go live on Wednesday morning, just so we have one recording on YouTube. And the next one, we're going to be talking more about, now that you have the foundations built, how are you communicating with your target audience? What is that going to start to look like? Do you know where your target audience is? And start building on a lot of these foundational blocks that Jazz is going to talk about today. So go ahead, Jazz, take it away.
Okay, awesome. Well, let me just jump over here into my presentation. So what I'd like to do is get started with everyone. My name is Jasmine Gorski. I'm one of the co-founders here at Campfire along with Ashley. And my primary background is in revenue operations. So marketing is a piece of that. A lot of times when I start working with small businesses, one of the number one reasons why they're not generating revenue is because they probably are not doing any kind of marketing, or the marketing they're doing is not effective because they don't have any goal set. They don't really know what they're trying to do. They're just blanketly throwing things at the wall and hoping some mud will stick and they'll get some traction. So a lot of times, this is I would say the most non-fun part of the whole process of doing social media is actually doing some of the foundational work of just getting to the bottom of what are we actually trying to accomplish. So when we start talking about the basics, and then like Ashley said, we're gonna actually move in through the 4-part series here of like, okay, once we have the foundation, then what? So basically where we start. So week 1, we're going to be talking a little bit about goal setting and what does that mean. It's a Friday. You know, it will be a switching of speakers. As we continue to expand these series, we're hoping to get more and more people who are specialized into specific social media channels and different things to come up and actually talk about those things. So we hope to create more value as we go on through the weeks. And then in week 3, we're going to talk about execution. So once you have a goal, now you have a plan. Now we got to actually talk about what do we do with that plan? What does the actual day-to-day work look like? How do we do this without burning ourselves out and making it actually like, this is a nightmare. Why am I doing social media? And then the last thing is about analyzing and adjusting. So social media is going to be a constant loop. Any marketing really is going to be a constant loop of plan, do, check, adjust. You're going to make a plan, you're going to do that plan, you're going to be checking how the results turned out, and then you're going to be adjusting that plan to do the next cycle. So this is going to be something that as you learn this foundation, you're just going to keep growing it, because you might start with a single channel and then you might be adding that strategy to another channel, to a different audience. And once you understand the foundation, it becomes so much easier to understand how to get results in any of those areas. So let's actually move on to the next slide here. So basically, this is just my own personal slide. Basically, the key takeaways that we're going to have coming out of this discussion is, you know, do you have a plan? You know, having the beginning, and you know, in the beginning, having the end in mind. Like, what are you hoping to accomplish? And knowing that before you even get started. A lot of people would think it would be silly to set out on a destination, you know, trip someplace without knowing where that destination is going to be. You aren't going to just jump in your car and start driving and be like, oh, where am I going? No, you usually have a destination in mind, and that way you can actually plot out your map to get to that destination. So we really want to know what is your end game. Setting what we call SMART goals. SMART goals is a analogy for a lot of different business coaches, and people utilize this methodology to actually set goals. So we're going to kind of walk through what does that mean for social media. And then talking a little bit about the actual social funnel breakdown. So there is, depending on the goals that you're trying to accomplish, there's going to be different tactics that need to be taken in order for you to get to that end goal. And then who is your target audience? So we're going to briefly touch on who your target audience is on the very end. Some of that's going to be homework leaving here, because next week it's really going to be focusing in on that. Once we know what your goal is and we know what you want to do, we actually need to know how do we find those people to do it with. So let's go in here. So does anyone want to share their plan, or do they have a plan? Nobody want to share? No?
We work with your services.
Okay. Okay.
Adi is our student coordinator for the social media there.
Okay.
We've been working with different channels.
Okay.
And we're trying just to engage a little more.
Okay.
So we do have the platforms kind of working a little bit.
Okay.
But we just want to improve, and maybe we're missing something.
Okay.
That's why we want to back up a little bit and start
Perfect.
to see how we are.
Perfect. Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, here, I'll tell you right now, we're not experts. If you go look at our social media right now, you'd be like, what the hell? Because we just literally are taking over this company just now. So we are this is what I'm saying. Everybody can be back to the basics at any given point, depending on what your goal is. So it shouldn't be about, maybe your plan when you first started was, hey, let's just get my social platforms set up. Okay, cool. You got that plan. You got that accomplished. Now your plan might be to grow that in some way or capacity. So I often tell people, some people get discouraged because it just seems like it's a big elephant in the room. There's so many moving parts, and you can feel like you compare yourself to other people and their plan, but they might have a different goal than you. So you really can't compare one person's social media strategy to yours unless they are kind of living in the same goal line as you are. So that's great. Awesome. So I always want to move to the other side with my thing here. So what are you trying to accomplish? So when I talk about setting a goal, there's several different things that you could be trying to accomplish. And each one of these have a totally different strategy when it comes to accomplishing that. So you might actually be looking just to increase your brand awareness. You're really not looking to do any selling. You're not looking to build engagement. At this point, you're literally just hoping people even know who you are, right? Then there might be okay, people do know who you are, and you've been on social media for a little while, but you don't seem to be growing in your following. So you might have a different strategy that's really about taking the followers you currently have, and you be looking to actually build engagement with those followers. Selling products. A lot of people, they jump right to this. They get on social media, they're in business, and they go, I got to sell products. That's the whole reason I'm marketing, right? I want to sell products. But the problem is that people only buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And so if you haven't already built that value into your customers, and you just start plastering your social media with products and ads, it's really likely that they're going to be like, I don't really even know if I want to engage with these people at all. I don't want to be a part of their system. It seems like all they really care about is if I can make money off them. So this is something that, even though I know it seems like, oh, we want to get there, we're going to talk about the social media funnel shortly. That's going to show you that there's a process for which you might have a strategy in the beginning that is about building brand awareness, that maybe leads to building engagement, that will eventually lead to selling products, right? So we have to think about what that strategy might be, and you might have to do one piece of that strategy for a 30 to 60, 90-day involvement while slowly starting to trickle in the next phases of the funnel to capture people the correct way. But you might not have any of the top three. You might actually looking that, hey, I use my social media as a way to gain customer feedback. Nowadays, more than any, people use social proof to decide whether or not they want to buy a product or service or engage with a brand. And a lot of times that's coming through things like your social media. People are leaving comments about what they think about you, whether that be good and or bad. I tell everybody, Feedback is actually neither good or bad. It's just feedback. It's about you being able to determine how that feedback influences what you're going to do next with your company, with your brand. And oftentimes, negative feedback can actually be more powerful for your brand to be able to counteract that by saying, let's say someone leaves you a negative review. How you respond to that negative review is how people are going to view your company. So if someone left you a negative review, and I know this about myself, I oftentimes don't look at the positive reviews. I run down to the negative review and I look and I say, can I live with that? And if I can, I'll probably still do business with them. Or if someone said something negative, but I read it and I go, well, that person was kind of a jerk, and I think that these people did the best they could in that situation, I'd still do business with them. So you might be looking to use social media, and your whole strategy is literally just about helping to get customer feedback and help you move your products forward. Customer feedback kind of falls in a little bit with the customer service. A lot of people nowadays, social media is helping to range a wide range of users. So even your grandmother might be able to use social media to leave customer service comments, but might not be able to send you an email. They might not, you have young people who might be able to pick up a telephone, but they don't really like to. They would rather just text you or DM you in your socials. So having a way for people to do customer service for your company and explaining that could be a big piece of your strategy. And then obviously advertising and promotions. Once people have gained a little bit of brand awareness, you might want them to be aware of, hey, here's some of the different things that we offer and some of the things that we're doing, we're putting on special, and helping people be aware of what you have to offer. So we'll kind of walk through a little bit of thinking about these goals in mind. Where is your business at currently right now when it comes to social media? Which one of these areas do you might fit in? And there might even be more than these ones. These are just some of the big ones that I know a lot of people hit on. So this kind of brings us into the understanding your buyer's journey. So just like I said a few minutes ago, there's a process that people go through when they start thinking about buying products. And this isn't just social media. This is just marketing in general. It is on average that people will take at least 5 to 7 touch points with your brand before they're even considering buying something from you. And when I say buying, I don't mean that they're actually purchasing a product. I mean, a buyer could actually be a person who's just buying into your vision. They're buying into your mission, they're buying into your brand, they're buying into your idea. So it could take 5 to 7 touch points before they've even decided, I'm willing to buy into following this person, because we're bombarded with information every single day. So people are becoming more and more selective of who they actually follow. Like, you could have went back maybe 5 or 10 years ago and people would just be like, follow, 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 follow. You just want all the content that you can get. Now we're kind of like unfollow, unfollow. I only want to follow very specific things because I only have so much time, and I don't want to read about your dumb food articles, or I don't want to read about your political views, or I don't want to read, like, all these different things that people are unsubscribing from because they just really want to consume content that's, very relevant to them. So understanding that, you have this awareness stage. This is one of the biggest stages that's kind of hard because you're going to do a lot of work up front without seeing any real measurable results that you feel like you can see. Most people just want to measure the things like, oh, I'm making sales, now I'm making money, and I feel like I can measure that. Or sometimes people can get a little bit trapped in this awareness stage in measuring what we like to call, I guess they're like flattery metrics. They're the, kind of metrics that make you feel good. Like, ooh, I got hearts, I got likes. But those don't necessarily result into maybe moving down that ladder. So it is an indicator that maybe people are enjoying your content, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're sharing that content, they're engaging with that content, or they're moving down the consideration ladder. So you have your awareness stage, then you move into consideration. This is where a little bit more like people are starting to engage a little bit more. They might be looking at your feedback and your comments. They may actually be asking questions, DMing you about things. And then eventually they're going to hit a decision stage. And this is where a lot of people in the sales field, this is where they think marketing ends. And it used to be all about closing sales. Everything is a close a sale and move on, go get another customer, close sales. Social media becoming a network has made it more and more about opening relationships. It costs way more money to acquire a new customer than it does to actually retain a customer you already have, because they've already gone through the awareness, consideration, and the decision stage. They already know that they like you, and they already know that they got a good product from you. So now we need to consider having them go back through the consideration, decision, consideration, decision. We want them to keep going through that cycle. And if anything, we actually want them to come into maybe even adoption, where they are now a loyal customer that is coming to you regularly. And hopefully, if you can continue down the map to advocacy, you want your customers to actually be out there promoting your product for you. So now that social media is becoming, and you're probably seeing this as a trend starting to happen now, is user-generated content. It's huge. And you honestly see people who figure out how to get their customers to promote for them, they sell way more products because it kind of takes a little bit of credibility. It's not you tooting your horn. When someone else is tooting your horn for you, they go, it must be good, because why would these people be talking about it? And this is why you're starting to see a whole trend of like influencer marketing, things like that. It's really important, because when someone else is willing to speak on your behalf, then you're going to get more. And that's why I would say user-generated content is becoming even more important than even influencer marketing, because people can now start to buy influencers, and your customers are smarter than ever. So they're starting to realize, like, okay, this is just another form of an advertisement now. They've gotten tricky, and they'll always be finding ways to figure out, are you trying to trick them into buying your product? So you want to try to figure out how can you have as much authenticity as you can. So trying to get down to this advocacy level is going to be a really like end goal for you, but it's probably not going to be your first goal. So setting goals. So this is the big thing that I find, and this is why I use this framework a lot when I set goals, even for myself, because I would like to say is that today it's really easy to put my head in the sand as a proverbial ostrich and be like, oh, I have a goal. But then when I'm asked to actually like describe that goal, like, okay, well, what is it? Like, I oftentimes can't get that like clear with the definition, because I only have a vague understanding of a kind of general direction I'm going. I haven't really sat down and said like, no, I've defined what this goal is. And so my husband and I used to say all the time in our RevOps agency is what gets measured gets accomplished. And it really is that way. You have to have some tangible things that you can start to look at and actually measure. Am I accomplishing the thing that I set out to do? This will also keep you from getting frustrated. It'll help you keep from getting off of track. So I said at the last session is that if you put a chalk line down and you're only off by 1 or 2 degrees, it's really not that noticeable in a short distance. If you only went a foot, 2 foot, you would barely even notice that that chalk line was off of its target. However, if you stretch that line out a mile, you might be several hundred feet off of the trajectory that you originally set out on. And you're only going to know that if you have a straight line that you can go back to and be like, nope, I got to get back on track. Nope, got to get back on track. It's a lot about being able to know what you say yes to and what you say no to. We get caught up even in just regular business, not even social media. We get caught up sometimes in, if you don't know what your goal is, you're easily taken off track by other people in goodwill things. Oh, we got this new thing going on. Okay, great. Oh, there's this new software over here. Like, that software doesn't help you with your goal, but it seems so cool and sexy. Now you're over here doing the software. Like, there's these things that can take you off track. And that's why eventually you're like, gosh, I've been doing this thing for like weeks and weeks and months and months. It just doesn't seem like I'm ever going to get off this proverbial hamster wheel of social media. And I just don't feel like it's worth it. Am I really wasting a lot of money and time on this thing? Does it really work? So the word SMART stands for basically specific. S is specific for, is your goal specific? Is it simple? Is it sensible? Is it significant? Can you specifically describe it? I am trying to gain new followers. I want to make 5 new sales next month. I would like to get 100 new comments on my post. Like, are you looking at it and actually being able to engage what it is that you're actually trying to accomplish? The second thing is M for measure. So again, putting an actual number, something you can actually physically measure. So again, all of those fluff metrics are like, oh, it seems like people love my stuff. But what does that mean? Love my stuff. Like, how can I measure how much they love that stuff? If you're counting the actual likes on a thing, okay, great, I've got X amount of likes. But again, is that getting me towards the goal that I wanted? So trying to figure out how to make it measurable in the sense of, hey, I got 10 new customer feedback comments on the last thing when I asked for them. Great, I want to get 15 next month. Am I actually going out and putting out posts to get people to actually respond to my stuff? Is it achievable? So this is a big one that people do too. A lot of people, they overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, and they severely underestimate what they can do in 10. And it's the same thing like with your social media strategy. So many people, they put out a 6-month plan, they put out a 3-month plan, and it's over the top. It's all these things that they want to do. I'm gonna post 5 times a week. I'm gonna post it at this time. I'm also gonna start a podcast. I'm gonna start 3 more channels. And then all of a sudden, they can't juggle all of them, and they're not consistent with it. So it would be better for you to create something that's achievable than it would be for you to go out and try to have, 8 new channels. And then the fourth one is it relevant? So is what you're doing actually going to make a difference in your overall business? Is it relevant? Like, so many people I see posting stuff, and when I look at their post, I kind of think to myself, what was that post supposed to do? It might be thoughtful, it might be insightful, but it didn't have a call to action. It didn't engage me to think about what I was doing, and maybe it didn't make me even pause. Sometimes I've met people who have spent 6+ hours on graphics that they put on their social media that people scroll past in 3 seconds. They didn't even read what was on the social media, gone. And it's like, that's 6 hours of someone's life that's completely gone. It means nothing. And a lot of it was because maybe they were designing graphics that didn't even match their target audience. So that's why their audience just scrolled right past it. So you got to make sure that what you're doing is relevant. And then the last one is, again, time bound. Don't set yourself goals that are so far out that you don't stay on track long enough. It would be better for you to set a 1-week goal and measure that 1-week goal than it would be for you to spend, a 6-month plan and, I'm going to be consistent. You're not going to be consistent for that long. You need to be able to check your work along the way. So I just tell people, and also the other reason time bound is important is that it sets a finite time for you to actually have to look at the results. Like if you don't set that finite time to say like, okay, in 2 weeks on this date, I'm going to look and see all the work that I put in, what actually happened. Was it good? Was it bad? What can I do to do it differently? Can I check with a mentor or a coach? Can I talk with some people to see like what I might be able to do to tweak this? Why am I not getting the results? I did all the things I thought I should, but it's not working. Don't go 6 months of it not working before you decide to stop and be like, hey, maybe I should get some help because it seems like I had this goal and it's not happening, because then you're just doing the same thing over and over and you're expecting a different result, and that just leads to insanity. So we're going to break down these a little bit farther. So like, how do you figure out how to create a specific goal? So a lot of times a specific goal breaks down into answering the 5 W questions. So what do I want to accomplish? Again, kind of looking at it through your social media, you're kind of trying to think like, what is that, goal that I want to accomplish? And this can be, you can look at it in a big macro area of like, what do I want to accomplish this year? And what would I want to accomplish like next week, this month? Like what are, try to like thinking about that in the time bounds of the big things and then breaking it down into smaller milestones along the way. And then the other thing is asking yourself, why is this goal even important? Why is this goal important in your business? What is it going to do to actually make a difference in your business? Are there maybe better ways to do the same thing in your business? Sometimes, like I said, I am for social media. I think it's a very powerful marketing tool, but you might want to look at your business and ask yourself, is social media even where my people live? Am I going to actually, or is it just silly for me to be out here posting social media for no reason, right? I can say that as an example from when I worked for Miracle Ear, this was several years back. It was very apparent that we did direct mailers. That is a crazy idea for people that are my generation below to be like, why? Like, why would I never open my mail? Honestly, I was a traveling nomad living out of a van for 3 years. I didn't even get mail unless it was digital. Like, I have mail still probably floating out in the universe. Who knows? Maybe I have jury duty I'm supposed to be on, and I don't know. So these are things like it meant no difference to me. So if I were to have been getting mail, it wouldn't have worked for me. However, for that demographic, that target audience, that's where they're at. Now, fast forward, let's say almost a decade, with Facebook being our higher demographic of like 35 to 65-year-olds, and grandma and grandpa are now on Facebook checking out grandkids, their pictures, their stuff. It might make a smart play now to use that same kind of advertising, but now on a platform like Facebook. So it's really about understanding if the goal that you're doing, like if what you're doing is actually important in this sector. And then again, who's involved? I talked about this last week, but you need to be thinking when you're thinking about your social media and how you're going to accomplish this goal beyond just yourself. Who else do you have in your personal network can actually help you to accomplish this goal as well? So if you're an employer who has employees, it is probably a high probability that they are on social media and they know how to use it. Why aren't they helping you market through their channels? Why aren't they helping you create the content because they connect with your customers? Like, this should be just as much their goal as it is your goal, because they work with you and they have the same outcome and they actually have a wider network than you. So teaching them how to utilize this on theirs, because again, what I had found is that most of us have been introduced to social media through the lens of I'm a user before I was ever a business owner trying to use it for marketing purposes. So when I was a user, I just post whatever I want, whenever I want, because it's just a fun medium platform. When you switch into your business hat, it's no longer about you. It's now about your customer. And so now you have to start thinking about everything I post is supposed to be for value for them, not because of what I want, what I think, what I love. It's about what they love, what they think about, what they want. So it's sometimes switching that hat over because we don't really think about that when we move into that business world. And then also looking at other channel partners of people that you might have. Is there other people that you know that also have a network of people that have the same demographic as you? And is there ways for you to collaborate so that you can get onto their social channels, they can get onto yours? Like, be thinking through how you can get other people involved. Where is it located? Again, we talked about, are they located on the social platform that you're currently using? Do you have to start using a new social platform? Are the people that you need in your network, are they located locally? Can you connect with people locally to do this? Or is it something that you need to start reaching out beyond the bounds of the physical location you're in? And then what resources or limitations do you have? A lot of people, the biggest thing that they'll come to me for is be like, man, I really need to do social media, but I don't have a budget. I don't have a budget. And I would like to say that people always have a budget for the things that they value. You have a budget because most people are in debt. Debt proves that people will find money to buy things that they don't actually have the money for if they value it enough. So the truth of the matter is that when you start thinking about something like social media, it is now in its own right a complete social, like, it's a marketing channel that should be allocated a budget for, to have someone either do it or for you to be able to invest in tools and resources that you need to actually grow it if you intend to actually make it a real marketing medium. It's not just a hobby. So if you want to treat it like a hobby, 100% that's you, but you're also going to realize you'll get hobby results from that. So if you want business results, you got to actually put business investments in that. But that's why having seminars like this are important, because the biggest issue people have is they go to someone to get social media help and they haven't vetted them about what they understand about getting the result. And so they end up getting someone who will just post whatever you tell them to post. But the problem is if you don't know what you want or how to do it, then you're paying someone else to do it for you. And that's really kind of a double-edged sword, right? So coming to seminars like this, whether you're looking to do this for yourself or you're looking to have someone else do it for you, it's getting to the point where you have enough knowledge to vet whether the person knows how to get you results. So if they're not asking you questions like this, if you're setting in a consultation to help them with their marketing, help you with your marketing strategy, and they're not asking, well, what's your specific goal? When do you want to have it by? How is this going to impact your business? They probably are more just technical people. They might know how to do the posting. They might know how to create the graphic, but they don't know how to put a strategy together for you yet, which is likely going to lead to you not getting the results that you want. So I really tell people, like, spend some time, really get specific with it. Is it measurable? So again, how much is this going to cost you? How much time is it going to take? How many posts a week are you going to have to make? How many, people are you going to have to reach? Like, start thinking about all of these things in the sense of, like, measurable things. How am I going to accomplish that? So, right now you guys are kind of setting in a little bit of a how am I going to accomplish that kind of situation, where over the next couple of weeks, we're going to teach you how you can accomplish whatever goal you have. So this is really meant to be like a session where you're going to start thinking about these things. And then, like, in session 2, we're going to start taking these things that you've thought about and actualizing these into a real plan. So you really want to move through how to measure it. Again, going back into, is it achievable? Your goals need to be realistic and attainable. In other words, if you stretch beyond your abilities, you're going to get burnt out. Like, more than ever, like, even Ashley and I, like, we're now, like, stepping into different positions in our own business. We had a conversation at a networking event earlier today about, the difference between leading, managing, and doing. And both of us are very technically trained in areas. So we just want to let me let me go do this thing. Unfortunately, we're at a point where we actually need to start looking to delegate and lead people. And that's kind of a scary thing to do. And so when you start dealing with social media, sometimes you have to delegate out already because you may not have the technical skills to create. And believe me, if you're not a creator, until you become one, you don't realize how hard it is to sit and stare at something blank and be like, how do I make this into what I kind of have a vision of what I want. But then if you don't know how to even, you got to conceptualize it, but then imagine if you have to struggle through the tools to actually make it happen. Are you willing to invest that amount of time on something that only impacts your business this much? You might have to think about that marketing being pushed out to someone who has more technical skills, who can do it faster than you, who can just get done what you want. But if you're the business owner, if you're the leader of this, you will never get past this part of being able to be the person casting the vision. So you have to be able to lead your creative team if you're not the person doing it yourself. And this is where I really harp on people, because if you don't know how to do something, it's okay, but you have to know how to do the part that tells you where you want to go. You have to be able to help people understand that result, because they're not going to know that for you. They're not going to get that results. They'll just make it up, and then that wastes you money. Again, we go back to the relevant. Does it seem worthwhile? Is it the right timing? Does this match our efforts and our needs? Am I the right person to reach this goal? Is it applicable in the current socioeconomic environment? Obviously, COVID has taught us a lot about having to be flexible with when we can do things and when we can't. I mean, we are now all meeting here in a room. This wouldn't have been possible, a few short months ago. So even though you may have a goal, our goal is we want to build more events, you sometimes have to strategize and figure out, how can I do that in another way? That's why we're streamcasting on YouTube right now as well, because we realize we have to have a hybrid approach. That's also guiding us in our new social strategy. How do we do a social strategy that not only helps the people who are here in person, but also can be utilized to help people who are not in person? And that kind of split our marketing strategy, because there's two totally different strategies when you start talking about two totally different segments of the markets, the people who would rather stay home and the people who would rather come in person. So you will have to realize, are your things that you're doing relevant? Because when we were out pushing marketing for event space and no one wants to come and use events, I'm just wasting my effort. So it is having to make sure that that is in the right place. Again, and then going into your time bound. When do you need to have this done by? What can you do 6 months from now? What can you do 6 weeks from now? What can I do today? So you really want to look at, I always recommend, sometimes it's too hard to look too far out. So sometimes looking at a 6-month goal or a 1-year goal, and then trying to break that backwards into monthly goals and then down to maybe weekly goals, so that it doesn't get so overwhelming and you don't get gosh, I'm never going to get there. It can be really hard if you're the entrepreneur, you're the founder of your organization, because you're having to vision out 5 years ahead for your people, but you also have to be realistic about what can we do today to actually move us towards that goal and not get too caught up in the big picture. All right, so I move into all those things. So you have your specific goals. I want you to keep at the forefront when you are thinking about setting your goals is knowing what the problem is that you are solving. What problem is your business actually solving for people? A lot of people will be like, hey, well, I have this product and it does this thing. Nope, it's not the right answer. The right answer is, on an emotional level, your business needs to either be solving a problem that helps people thrive. They are doing better. It makes them feel better, makes them look better, socioeconomically better, or it's helping them survive. It's keeping them from, little peril death as far as they're concerned. Your thing is helping that. And you need to position yourself out of the traditional aspect of, again, when you were posting on your social media, you're the hero of your story. So you love writing that story because you're the hero. When you become a business owner, you move out of the hero position and into the guide position. You no longer are the hero of the story. Your customer is the hero. You are the guy that's going to help them win their day. So you can't just swoop in and let me do it for you, because they want to do it for themselves. They want to feel accomplished in the thing that I'm participating in this brand. It makes me win. It makes me look good. It makes me feel good. It makes me survive or thrive. So think about your business through more of an emotional lens. I know that next week when Ashley speaks, we are very big advocates of Don Miller. If you've never heard of Don Miller, he writes a book called Building Your Brand Story. It is so foundational to what you do in business, because once you understand your brand story and how to communicate that message properly, your customers will come flying through the door, because your message will hit a string with them and they will just automatically know that you're the person that they've been seeking. You're the person that they've been trying to find in this sea of people that they're out there looking every day. How do I solve this problem? How do I get better at doing this thing? So you don't want to be the hero. And he talks through a 7-part story frame, and Ashley will kind of cover a little bit of that next week. Of once you think about the problem that you're solving, she's going to take you through how do we actually put that in terms of writing out your brand story that will then guide all of your social media posts from this point forward, all of your marketing directives from that point forward, to get to the point where you have a very consistent message, so that when someone hears from you, it really should be that the message that you say today to someone else on the street should be able to be like, repeat that same exact message. And the next person, if every time someone comes in encounter with your brand, they're telling a different story, you can understand how confusing that gets, right? And again, if we want to get back to what I talked about earlier of getting user-generated content, the story has to be so consistent that everybody else goes, I'm a part of that story, let me tell you my version. I'm a part of that story, let me tell you my version of that story. If everybody has a very different view of what you do, it gets very quick for the water to get muddy, and people are like, I don't know. Well, and this is a problem that we struggled with for a long time with what we're doing here at Campfire. And going through similar trainings that you guys are doing right now, we were able to kind of come to the realization of there's phases of our business, but we have to start with a foundational story. And there's other stories we'll tell later, but you can't weave those in until the main characters and the plot has been laid with this story. Then we can start weaving in other stories, or you're just going to confuse people and they're going to be like, where am I coming in at this? I don't understand what's going on. So you really have to understand what problem that you're solving. And then once you understand the problem you're solving, well, then it starts to help you start to target in on, well, who are the kind of people that would like this problem solved? And that helps you start looking at putting together target audiences. So there's a practice that a lot of people in the marketing field do, where it's called creating user personas. And when you create a user persona, you quite literally are taking a fictional person and thinking like, what is their name? Where do they work? How old are they? Do they have kids? Are they married? What are their values? Are they in this group? Do they like these hobbies? You kind of really start thinking about, who is this person? Because it's a lot easier to market to people if you had an ideal person in mind. When you're looking at that person and being like, this is the kind of things that these people like, you're going to be able to create graphics, you're going to be able to create verbiage around the kind of things that people like. So I like to use an example is for myself, like it became very popular. I was on the bandwagon before it became popular, but I see now that trend, which is, people who are very nomadic and van life, and they live that lifestyle. My husband and I, we converted out of a van and we were living that life. And now I see, and I am very much attracted to people who are also doing the same things that I'm doing. And I'm more likely to plug into the same products that they're plugging into, simply because I know they have the same values as I do. So when I see someone, who's driving a Sprinter, I instantly am like, I already like this person because they're driving a Sprinter. And so and I have something to talk to them about, because I'm like, hey, how do you like your Sprinter? Blah, blah, blah. What do you don't like? So thinking about that through your brand, it's likely that the brand that you build, imagine your brand as a person, and it's going to come in contact with friends that are just like it. And they need to be able to have conversations around something that makes them tick the same way. So you really want to spend some time thinking about writing out some people. And in that Notion document, I did put a couple of examples of a worksheet for you guys to kind of think about, like, what am I describing as an overall whole? And then the last thing I'd have you consider before coming into next week is, who's your competition? A lot of people, I've had people come to me like, my business is unique, it's different, and I have no competition. I'm like, not like anybody else. The truth of the matter is, you are like somebody else in your customer's mind, even if you don't think that. So, not to be specific, but, we've been working with someone, and they have a very specific idea that they want to do that is wildly different. But the problem that they're going to have is that there are other entities that are very similar to theirs, that people are going to put them in that box, even though they're not in that box. And the only way that they're going to get out of that is to be able to describe how they're not like this item, or they're not like this item. They're kind of a little mix in the middle. So it's really important, and you can only figure out how you differ from those different competitors. And like I said, I would look at it as a competitor. It doesn't necessarily mean someone who is going to buy instead of you. It's someone who is similar enough an idea that someone would put you in that box. That's a competitor. They're still going to be like, I would put them on the competitive analysis because someone is looking at you and being like, well, I don't really need your product because you're X, even if you're not. So try to write down some people of who are your actual direct competitors. And here's what you want to do. You want to be looking at, what do you like about, because honestly, if they're your competitor, they're obviously doing probably something very similar to what you're doing. So you probably will like some of the things that they're doing. What are they doing really well? Write those things down. Look at their brand and say, well, here's what makes my brand different. This is what I don't like about their brand. They don't do this. They don't do that. They don't do this. Like, put all those things down and kind of be working through that process. And then the other thing I tell everybody is go interact with their followers. These people are probably, their followers are probably your followers or future followers. So go in and interact with their followers and start to pull out a little bit of, you know, what do they want? How do they see that brand? Why do they choose that brand? It's going to help you start to distinct what you're doing differently. So that's pretty much the presentation for today. Like, I know fire hose is a lot of information, but this is going to help us build on the strategy, because I will tell you that once you already have you have a plan, you have a strategy, building the graphics and doing the work becomes so easy because you no longer have to think about, what am I doing this for? Why am I doing this for? Like, every single thing you go to make, you start asking yourself, is this getting me closer to my goal, or is this taking me farther away? Is this actually getting me the results that I set out to do? And you are able to give your creative team a much better direction. You are clear with it, and you're going to spend so much less time sitting around being like, oh gosh, I have to get some posts out this week. What am I going to post about? Just because I need to be consistent, or you feel an urge to actually do it. You may not have to post as often or as much as other people, depending on your goal. You may have to post more. You might have to have more intense posts that are a lot more engaging or thoughtful and then take a little bit more time to do because of your goal. Or you might have ones that it's just like, it's consistency. Get it out there. I have to build up my influence. So with all that said, does anybody have any questions about what we went over? Anything we can elaborate on? Anyone have any specific kind of goals? Like, I guess, you know, if you guys want to go around and maybe even just introduce yourself and let me know, like, who are you? Like, are you a business owner? Are you working for a business? Like, I guess I can start right here with you. If you want to start, Joel, like who you are, what you're representing.
I don't know, I mean, unless you'd rather just have me get up and speak for a few minutes, which would be totally fine. So I think maybe we should just have everybody else go around now.
Okay.
I'll hop into me.
I'm John. I
Okay.
work at Quick Stop,
Okay.
the bike shop up there.
Okay.
And I guess I'm here to kind of figure out.
Are you in charge of their marketing, or you actually run it, or just work there?
We're very, loosey-goosey about our whole social media.
Okay.
Thing. Basically, we have an Instagram.
Okay.
And I post on that every once in a while.
Okay.
So I'm kind of trying to figure out, I guess, how to interact with people who are shopping at bike shops. And
Okay. Perfect.
stuff like that.
You gotta start somewhere, right? Which is great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm Bailey. I'm here on behalf of Erica Smith.
Okay.
She owns the Gather Earth gift shop and Sage. And we're also starting a nonprofit slowly. It started last year, but we're trying to get that up and running. Probably in April, called Beaches. And I'm the general manager, but I'm also the social media person, so that also, it makes it kind of hard to juggle everything. So we're trying, like, some of the goals that we have at the Gather Earth, because the Gather Earth and Sage have two very different target demographics. And so for Gather Earth, I kind of just put down that we're trying to increase reach and engagement, which that's been our goal for a while now. We are slowly increasing that over time. And then for Sage, definitely increasing reach and brand awareness, because we just opened in November. So and then Beaches, that's gonna take some time. We haven't started anything with the social medias yet. We have a lot left to do. So yeah.
Perfect.
I'm Lily. I also work with Bailey at the Gather Earth and Sage. My mom is actually the one who owns both of those businesses. And I'm just here because I would like to help Bailey more with the social media aspect of that. So I'm here with more so that I can help her more, so that she's not so
Awesome.
busy all the time.
Perfect.
That's great.
Hi, I'm Ed. I'm working with with a group of academics to start an online magazine. Talks about state media propaganda, censorship, which are pretty hot topics right now. And I'm new to all this. I've never, launched a group over social media other than small personal stuff like that, stuff with people. Never been on Instagram, never been on Twitter. So anything I can glean from these presentations.
I'm Amanda. I work at the OrDoc.
Okay.
I very recently just kind of accepted a new-ish, I'll still be kind of but customer engagement lead.
Okay.
So they've got a lot going on over there. So Chris and who's our marketing director and Andrea, our owner, are trying to kind of offload some of their responsibilities. So we just brought in one of our other bartenders, Kelly, to kind of take over events management and whatnot. So I'm more on the customer engagement side. So Chris is actually really good at social media. He does a lot of Instagram, he does a lot of Facebook, we create events, posters and advertising and whatnot. So since I am so new to this, he's still gonna be creating events and whatnot, but I'm going to be monitoring
Perfect.
the activity on our social media. So I just figured I'd pop in and, come for the 4 weeks and see if
Perfect.
there's anything that I can gain to help.
Awesome. Fantastic.
I'm Abby. I'm the social media coordinator for the Career Services Department on campus, and I'm basically here just to find ways to drive engagement and make students and alumni in our campus community more aware of our services and the services we offer, and just try to keep track of that engagement and make sure that we're everyone is aware of our services.
Okay. Perfect.
I'm Bia. I work with Abby, and I'm Principal Secretary for Career Services, and we're trying to engage our social medias. We have a good slow engagement right now, and we're trying to kind of rebuild the brand and have more of the students understanding what we do.
Absolutely.
Just to help them. That's
Perfect. Yeah.
Our product is come to us and help you.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
Perfect.
what we're trying to sound now.
Well, this is awesome. I'm really excited to have, met all you guys. I know Joel said he has a few things he maybe jump up here and say. So we have, a group of us now in Campfire is going to become a home for creatives and people to kind of network and do these kinds of things. And the goal is for us everybody probably in this room has something that they have a skill that they could teach somebody else in this room something. And we're hoping that these kind of events like this turn into a way for us to actually, not only do this, but also we now have a whole bunch of people in this room who can, as I said, the people start to do that engagement. I know, if I know your goals, I can actually make it a part of my goal to be okay, I'm going to go in and every time I see an OrDoc post, I'm going to go share that a couple of times. I'm going to go leave a post. Every time I see something from Gathered Earth or the bike shop, I'm going to go in, I'm going to try to do that. Or if I meet people that I know, bikes, guess what? We have a ton of people that bike to our office all the time. That's something I might be able to be hey, have you heard of the bike shop down there? Go on, follow their page. They always have good stuff. These are the kinds of things that I think can come out of these kind of environments beyond just the learning. It's the actual networking that we can do physically to start boosting our views, boosting our stuff, and sometimes creating cross content. There's no reason why when, our fat tire bike rider comes in and I take a picture of him because hey man, look at how cool it is you can ride to your office on your bike, that I can't tag that post to you guys and be hey, here's a great place to get your bike looked at, fixed, or what, any of the things that you guys are trying to promote. So just thinking about that as well of how can we as a community also engage to actually make this happen on a physical level, not just being oh, let me just put it out, because there's so much noise today. There's almost has to be actual physical action towards making a difference for people to be oh, wow, this is different.
It creates trust, more trust, builds trust. It anchors you into the community. If we're all working together, we can go a lot further faster than if we're trying to do it individually on our own all the time. That's what we've noticed here at Campfire is that there's so many people doing individual things. How can we bring people together so that we can all succeed and help everyone in the community?
Sure.
So I want to introduce Joel here to come up and just give us a little bit of perspective. Joel actually works for a marketing firm right now, so he has a ton of experience in what he's doing. Give him a few minutes on the floor to kind of give us any insight that might draw some additional stuff here.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
As Chad said, I'm Joel Siegel. Let's see if I can give some quick background. I have managed social media accounts as large as 212,000 followers. So that's relatively big. And that includes Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, email marketing, all sorts of stuff like that. I also am the creator and head runner of a social media based art challenge known as Inktober. And that is still gaining steam, a lot of steam, but is probably where most of my social media expertise will come in. I mostly just am an artist and a graphic designer. Things that I think I can share. Social media seems intimidating, is literally what I want to say. Especially when brought forward in a presentation, a beautiful, lovely presentation. It seems a lot scarier than it is. But it's actually not. It is a mountain that you have to climb slowly, post by post, piece by piece, comment by comment, like by like. And similar to what both Jazz and Ashley have been saying, community interaction is actually going to help you a lot more than what you think. Your goal shouldn't necessarily be like, hey, let me go out and try and get 10,000 followers. That's not really a good goal, because similar to what Jazz was saying in the presentation, the amount of followers that you have is not actually going to be like the amount of true buyers that you have, loyal people that you have coming back for your product, for whatever you're posting. Social media isn't necessarily just a platform for trying to showcase products and things like that either. Events are always good. Generally, if you're running a business, I would steer clear of having any sort of political or religious bias. Keep that on your own personal social media if you feel you need to voice it. Don't have it on any kind of very public business profile. That's like the one tip I'm going to give you right away.
Unless your business is a political thing.
Right. Right. Obviously, of course, if yours is, a cause or something like that, then that is exactly what you're standing for. That's what you're doing. That's your purpose. That is your goal. But otherwise, keep it personal or off is a really good recommendation. I have been doing my own marketing through social media we're probably at about 10 years now. I really got my own personal art stuff going around 10 years ago, where I started promoting myself on social media. I started selling my stuff on Etsy. I started working comic conventions, the big ones, literally. I worked New York Comic Con in the Artist Alley in 2014, which was the year that New York Comic Con beat out San Diego's International Comic Con in attendance. I was there in the Artist Alley with 500 other artists selling my art. So I have some experience when it comes to selling things via social media. I don't necessarily link products right away, but showcasing products and things like that in the way of like really creative photography or whatever is always something that actually catches people's eye. So if you don't know photography, hop on the internet, go through some real basic lessons, try your hand with your phone. You don't have to have a fancy camera to do awesome things on social media. One of the resources that actually was in one of the images here is Canva, which as a graphic designer, it is like nails on a chalkboard for me to tell you about Canva. Canva is I believe, mostly free resource that you can use for helping to create a lot of your social media posts, as well as even logos, stuff like that. You can create advertisements, you can create logos, you can create social media posts. But I will tell you this, when you have enough steam and you want to value part of your budget, there are enough graphic designers here in Marquette that will help you, and for very affordable rates, myself included. If you need a network of them, contact Ian at the Boreal Collective. He might lead you to me as well, or even here at Campfire. There are a handful that work here, a handful that know what they're doing as well. Canva, good resource for free to start out. Another good free resource that I don't think was mentioned is Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a resource that will help you schedule posts. So I know the whole like planning thing is really, really scary because you're all like, oh, but I work like 12 hours for 5 days a week. And otherwise I need to hibernate because life. Schedule your posts. Hootsuite, I think, allows 30 free scheduled posts per month. I may be misquoting. They may have changed things since then.
Canva lets you schedule now too.
Canva does too.
Mhm.
Nice. There you go.
And we're gonna get into a lot of these
A little bit
resources
later.
probably
In
in week 3 when we're talking about execution.
a couple of weeks,
We'll
so.
definitely make sure all these kinds of resources are available to you as well, because we realize like a lot of people don't have time to research what is actually working and trying to get you down to the very small few tools to get
Sure.
you going. And then you can build upon it in advance. And at a certain point, if you don't really love what you're doing, it's a time to be like, okay, hand this off to somebody else.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. I may be back for some of those sessions too.
Yeah.
I will tell you, you can post too much. You can overpost. You can post way too frequently. The account that I was telling you that I helped run that was 212,000 followers was for a tattoo artist in Chicago. I worked at a tattoo shop for about 5 months. I was their marketing assistant, and I managed his account. He also was the shop owner, and I managed their account too. So that's 2 accounts. I had to make 3 posts daily to each of those on 3 platforms. So if you're real quick at math, that was 18 posts per day that I was making Monday through Friday. He had a lot of high-tiered clients that paid well into the multiple thousands of dollars to come in for tattoos that would come in once or twice a year, fly from all the way around the world. They came in, and while sitting there with a needle in their back, they would say, hey man, you're posting too much to the artist. And that would come back to me. I'd be like, well, you told me to. So you do need to be careful with, if you're delegating tasks to someone to do social media, don't have them do too often. That is, yeah, you will oversaturate anything. And then, as Jazz said, with people being very specific on who they follow and unfollow now, you will fall into the unfollow quickly, like real quick. As for Linktober is the big one for me. Linktober is a social media based art challenge, is the best way I can describe it, that I started. There is Inktober. Inktober was created in 2009 by an artist named Jake Parker. And that was a daily ink drawing throughout all of October, thus Inktober. I tried to do it for a couple of years and couldn't really get through all 31 days consecutively. And so in 2015, it dawned on me, hey, I should draw from something I love, which is The Legend of Zelda, which we all have known or heard of. And so I did, and I completed all 31 days. I realized at that point, if it can get me through all 31 days of art through social media, that there were a lot of other creative Zelda fans out there, that there could be an actual thing there. Thus, in 2016, I personally built out all the social media, the entire website, a calendar, and released it to the world. In 2015, the first year that I was doing my Zelda art for Inktober, I was one of 3 artists on the internet that was actually hashtagging my art as Linktober. There were 2 other guys, and that literally was it. We just all thought we were crafty. Hey, the main character of Zelda is Link, and it's Inktober, so Linktober, blah, blah, blah. The first official year, 2016, we went to 300 people, and then it has continued to grow since then. We are now at 5,000 to 6,000 participants worldwide every October, as well as the fact that I run single-handedly run a virtual convention themed all to Zelda stuff in summer, which I have run for 2 years now due to the pandemic. I thought it was a good need. It is something I built off social media. But as Linktober grew, I needed more help. Similar to what they said in the presentation here, you may have to delegate things, and that is pretty hard to do. So knowing how to delegate tasks, when to ask for help, where to ask for help is super important. Make sure to do that. Trying to think of some other last quick tips. As I said, learn some photography, use a bunch of free resources, feel free to find me. I'm pretty easy to find. I may be here at Campfire hanging out doing things. Ashley and I are the heads of Nerds of Marquette. I also will be downstairs a lot of the time in what will now be known as the Art Drop Shop, where my wife and I will be selling gently used art supplies that we take in as donations and probably teaching some art-related classes as well. But otherwise, my biggest tip for you on social media, well, 2 tips. One, ask questions in your posts as your captions. Throw out questions because that actually gets better customer interaction. People will answer you in the comments or retweet, reshare, whatever. And last but not least, your hashtags, change them regularly. Do not use too many. Instagram, try to keep your maximum at 5, but you could go to 10. Their maximum is 30. The algorithms will hide you if you use too many, which still really applies to Twitter. Facebook does not use hashtags. They have them. They don't use them. Don't bother on Facebook. Use your hashtags on Twitter, more so on Instagram to be found. Ask questions, interact with your fans. That's like the best advice I can give.
Thank you. All right, guys, so that pretty much wraps up the first understanding the basics of social media. Next week, Wednesday at 9 o'clock or Friday at 9 o'clock. It's going to be the same presentation, so you don't have to come to both. But we're just going to pick up right where we left off here. And Ashley will be actually leading us through understanding your target audience, how we can start crafting the actual messages that you're going to talk, and pretty much giving you a framework so that you can actually keep your brand on message. And like I said, if you work with anybody, these questions that I asked today, kind of drill them for some of these answers. Like, hey, I'm working on this stuff. Like, I'm kind of going through this. Like, ask for their direction of what they're trying to accomplish. It's just going to help you take the next step. And Ashley will make sure everybody's added to the Notion template so that you can go through, do your checklists, and see the examples or follow any of the additional tools and stuff. So thank you for everybody for coming. We appreciate it. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys next week.
And feel free, grab coffee on your way out or snack, food, please.
Or if anyone wants a business card from me.
There you go.
Capacity. Definitely put a lot of you.
And that's a great idea for anyone that comes to any event here. Like if you have business cards or you want to network with people, please feel free to do that. Campfire is meant to be a community where we all share.
Guys, we job we hire somebody, some students.
Yeah.
It's a big thing that we do. Like,
Perfect.
You want the business, we can post jobs.
That's great.
Oh, cool, thank you.
Just
Yes, thank you.
nice things that we can find out, connect our students.
Yeah.
Also lost your mind.
Oh,
I
no.
wanted to get some business.
Oh, no.
But I know I have it for now. Yeah, and thank you. I will put
Do you
this in
guys
place.
have a job board? Or like,
So what we do, that's a big thing that we use our social media for. We post job